Welcome everyone to day 17 of the 1000 days of live business coaching. My name is Obo Awoke Obo, and today we will be focusing on how to overcome business stagnation. As you join us, please type in the chat, introduce yourself, and then tell us where you are watching from, because we are building a community across the nations of the world, across different value chains. And then you might just be the supplier, the business that someone in the group has been waiting for. So introduce yourself and tell us where you are joining from, and also let us know what you expect to get from tonight's class. So welcome Ronaldo, Dinesh, Omanoye, yes, good evening. Amit, Amar, Chinedu from Lagos, and then Aderity. Thank you all for being part of this. So today we are looking at how to overcome business stagnation. When I drive through many cities, and not just in Nigeria, I see it in Ghana, I see it in Ethiopia, I see it in Tanzania, I see it in different parts of the world. I saw it also in Sierra Leone. And I guess that for my Indian audience, who are there, you also have this same phenomenon. So many businesses are facing stagnation. And then why do we care? We should care because small businesses usually represent the backbone of the economy of any country, of any community. And so when I drive around and I see overgrown filling stations, and I see abandoned retail stores, and I see poultries that were once producing, that had 30,000 birds, 100,000 birds, and it is now a carcass where lizards and snakes and rodents play. It is a very, very sad thing. And then we have to reverse it. And so you probably hear and your business is stagnating, is not doing well, or you work in a business that is actually stagnating. You can tell that the way the place of your work is going right now, or the way your business is going right now, that it might not last for a long time. Tonight is your night. We are going to do this in two parts. So today, I'm going to tell you the agenda that we are going to face today. And then on Monday, we'll do the part two where we talk about generating revenue. Okay, so now, as we start, I know we come from different countries, but some of you from Nigeria, you will remember this. You remember this building. Anyone? If you remember any of them, just type in the chat. Just say yes. Type in the chat if you remember any of these businesses. So remember Kingsway in Lagos. That was a huge business. That was the happening place in those days. That was the elite store. Like if you really wanted to shop, with the big boys, Kingsway was that place. Kingsway is dead today. What about this one? Anybody remember this man? He was extremely popular. And I know that in every country, we do have the Abiolas of this world. So this was the richest man in Nigeria, and then it could easily have been the richest man in Africa at the time that he was alive. He had Concord Press, he had book shop, he had farming concern. At some point, I think he had telecommunications, he had all kinds of things, conglomerate of businesses. But guess what? As soon as the man died, that was the end of that empire. It's no longer there today. How about this one? Anybody remember? So this also used to be like the elite place, where families would go and then they buy food, and it used to be something to brag about in those days. Oh, my family is just coming from Mr. Biggs. We had lunch there after Sunday service. Oh, it's no longer what it used to be. It's no longer what it used to be. And what about this one? In fact, this one is a textbook story. Okada Air was a local airline that started, blossomed. They had so many aircraft at the time and really became iconic. But today, Okada Air is dead. It's no longer there. And in fact, Okada Air has become a proverb because that's what we now call motorcycles in Nigeria. We call them Okada. How about this one? Okay. Over 160, and of course you can update it because it should be running to almost 200 airline businesses have failed in Nigeria since 1980s. Abandoned, stagnated, failed. Who remembers Sosoliso? Who remembers ADC, Albarca, Air Nigeria, Trans-Sahel? So many of them that you don't even know existed in those days. You know, and then for some of you in Eastern Africa, you will also remember this one. So this was a very huge business employing lots of people in their thousands in their value chain. And all of a sudden, Mumia's Sugar died, but it looks like they are coming up again. It looks like there's some kind of injection of some new life into Mumia's Sugar. But if you are from Eastern Africa, please let us know what's the status of Mumia's Sugar. Are they back in business? Because I think sometime around 2019 or so, they filed for bankruptcy. They stagnated and they were no longer there. And then for some of you in Southern Africa, you remember Choppies. Maybe they still do. In some countries, they still exist. But in many countries, they are out of business. So the point I'm making, and then of course, if you know other businesses that have stagnated, please put it in the chat. If you know businesses in your own country that have gone out of business, that once was booming, employing thousands of people, but all of a sudden they no longer exist, please type the examples. Type the examples from Ghana, from the Gambia, from Zambia, and all the countries represented here. Now, and then some of you may remember this, okay? Some of you in Nigeria and West Africa may remember all these brands. Does anybody remember any of these brands? Type the one you remember in the comment section. Type the one you remember in the comment section. And of course, for many of you who were born from the mid-1980s and 1990s, you probably never tasted any of these brands or saw them. But today, they've all stagnated. They do not exist. So business stagnation is a big problem. It's a big problem. And then at any point in time, there are businesses stagnating, thousands of businesses stagnating. And then many times the signs are there, but the business owners do not know what to do. Okay. Now, but that is not the end of the story. Okay. And then type whichever, Aderity says, okay, you remember Cabin Biscuits. Yep. Okay. Ikechukwu Franklin, thank you for joining. Okereke Dan, thanks for coming. Yes, so Malik says that in the Gambia, they had Sankong Sila and Son Soap and Plastic Factory, and then they are no longer there. They stagnated. And then there are thousands, even in Nigeria, in Ghana, thousands of businesses that stagnated and went. The saddest thing to me about this is that these are thousands of jobs that are lost. These are thousands of jobs that are lost. So there were people who worked in these businesses, and that was a source of income for their families. That was how they were feeding their families, but they are no longer there. So we are going to start arresting business stagnation today. Some of you here, it's not only the big businesses, but even the small businesses like your own. You started a business, selling honey or selling groundnuts or selling soap or something like that. And then all of a sudden you went out of business, all right? It also happened to me. I started some businesses after I left Shell that stagnated. So if you have ever started the business that stagnated, please type in the comment section and let us know. You've started a business that stagnated. Let us know, because we are going to completely deal with that situation today. We are going to have to develop a mindset that when we start a business, we want to see closure. Everybody type closure in the comment section. We want to see closure. You see, I'm going to talk about the many reasons people give for letting their businesses stagnate, but we're going to address that mindset, and then we're going to see closure, and then we see what we are going to do. For some of us who are running small businesses or even small side hustles, you are going to learn exactly what to do today. You are going to be able to identify the signals, the symptoms of a stagnating business. And then when you identify the symptoms, then I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. Yes, closure. Closure, yes. When you start a business, always have closure in mind. Closure in mind. You're going to make that business work. Your closure is that it's going to be successful. It's going to provide employment, for people. It's going to solve some important problem in the community. Now, yes. So Aderity says, I have started consulting business that stagnated. Yes, yeah, that also happened to me. Aderity, my first consulting business stagnated. Ajia Mahmood talks about Basita Sugar Company in Kwara State that's gone into extinction. And then there's also a bread factory in I don't know whether it's in the same Kwara. Ajia, you can confirm, or whether it was in Oyo. I'm trying to Oyo State. I'm trying to remember that very, very famous bread. Very, very famous bread. I think in the 70s, in the 80s, all of a sudden, that bread factory folded. There was another one in Onisha. Very delicious bread. I forget the name. And then, in fact, the thing went, I do not have any idea why that business stagnated, and then that bread factory collapsed. It was delicious. The bread was delicious. If you ate the bread, it was like you were eating cake, and it was delicious. Very well done. Very well done. In those days, that bread factory was in Onisha. It no longer exists. And then some of you joining us from Aba, can you confirm if there were also businesses that stagnated in Aba? Okay. If there are businesses that stagnated in Aba, okay. Njideka is on the call. Good to have you again, Njideka. Njideka is joining from Onisha in Anambra State. Dan is joining from Aba. Okay, very good. Yeah, Dan talked about cabin biscuit. Yes, you knew that one. Okay, so now let me show you the other side of the story. Festus talks about glass industry in Port Harcourt. Is it glass or glass that no longer exists? There are so many government businesses like that also stagnated, went out of business. So in Nigeria, we have that massive steel industry at Ajaokuta. Do you know other examples? Put it there. I think there's also one in Warri, whether it's the glass industry in Warri. It's also gone extinct. And then there were so many other businesses, companies that the government started in leather industry, and all those things, and they are dead today. Yes. So Aderity says, I don't know if Yala branded bread of recent popularity still exists. Yeah, I don't know. For bread, we've had so many bread factories, that just didn't make it. But see, let me show you. When I was doing my executive coaching certification, my particular interest was why many businesses, especially businesses in Asia, lasted for hundreds of years, and some even over 1,000 years. And then while other businesses stagnate, like under 5, 10 years, 20 years, many businesses in this part of the world have stagnated. And then even after my executive coaching certification, that was in Florida in the United States, I still went on exploring that curiosity because I was personally disturbed that we don't have businesses in Africa, that many businesses in Africa owned by Africans that have lasted 50, 60 years. But we have businesses in Europe, in France, in Belgium that have lasted 700, 800 years in operation non-stop. And I'm going to show you a few of some of those businesses I have studied over the years. And the question I have been working on is what makes a business last as long as 1,000 years? In fact, type that question, type it in the comment section. Of course, if you are already a regular in our live business coachings, you know that I always want you to type your insights and to type the questions, significant, profound questions in the chat, because the more you type these things or you note them down in your journal, the more your nervous system owns it, the more you memorialize it. So type in the chat, because it's a profound question that we're about to answer, or at least touch on tonight. Why do some companies, what makes companies last for 1,000 years and others can't do 10 years? Type it in the chat, and then you can reframe it, in a more smooth way. What makes a company last 1,000 years? That's the question I want you to sleep with, thinking through tonight. Okay, what makes a company last 1,000 years? Type it in the chat. Type it in the chat. What makes a company last 100 years? Okay, what makes a business last 100 years? Okay, very, very important. Onyeka Obani, thank you for joining us. Prince Chooks, thank you for being here and for your contributions. Yes, Boba Jalo says, I can't hear. Well, everybody can hear, so maybe you should adjust your system, okay? Adjust your audio, raise your audio, or you can go in and then come back again. Yes, what makes a company last? I didn't say 100 years or 1,000 years. Okay, so let's look at some of those companies. So this is actually regarded as the oldest hotel in the world. It's called Nishiyama Onsen Keiin-kan, and it's family-owned hotel, okay, according to Guinness Book of Records. It's a family-owned hotel, and this hotel was started in 705 AD. That was long before your grandfather and grandmother were born. 705. Can you imagine it? So this hotel has been in operation for 1,319 years, for almost 1,320 years. There must be something. There must be something. Yes, Udenwa. Yeah, thank you for typing it out in the comment section. There must be something. Okay. Now, there is another one. This is Italian. It started in 1141. Can you imagine? 1141 AD. So this company has been there for 883 years. And it's a family business. In fact, when I started my investigations, my research into why companies last 1,000 years, one of the biggest surprises I found was that most of these companies are actually family-owned. So there's something about family-owned businesses, and there's a reason I'm beginning to encourage every family to own a business. It's okay to work. Because some people say, well, not everyone can own a business, but there's a sense in which a family should consider owning a business, whether it's in education. You start school. Stanford Harvard, most of those schools started like family concerns. Because I'm amazed that many of these businesses that have lasted 1,000 years are actually family owned. You are going to see many more of them. I'm just showing you a few of the companies I've studied over the years in the course of my work with how do I help my own business and then other businesses, like all of your businesses listening tonight, to last for 1,000 years. So that when you begin your business, you should not just be talking about or thinking about starting a business to pay school fees or to build a house or to buy a car, and that's it. Yes, because one of the things I discovered is that these people had a mission that was transgenerational, and then they thought in terms of family. These people sat down and said, we don't want our family over the next 1,000 generations to ever beg for money. They should focus on finding purpose and fulfilling it instead of looking for money. And then you see this family, the family that owns the Nishiyama Hotel, that they have been there for over 52 generations. Can you imagine you beginning a business today that will still be there 1,000 years after you have died? That is incredible. Everybody type incredible. Incredible. Type incredible in the comment section. Is this giving you the chills like it's giving me? That you start a business, that business you're doing today, instead of stagnating like the ones that I had shown you before, actually goes on to outlive you. And then 300 years, the business you start today is still feeding 10 generations, 50 generations after you've died. Do you think that the generations will forget you? That is incredible. Exactly. Really, really incredible. Incredible, incredible, incredible. And so I want us to build incredible families, and then building businesses, family businesses has a lot to do with it. Now, the third company that I studied is Stella Artois of Belgium. So Stella Artois started in 1366. My goodness, 1366. Yes, Aderity, I see what you typed there. Family is powerful. Exactly. And why I like family businesses is that when done very well, it actually unites families. When I see so many African families killing themselves, fighting over small things, maybe their father left one small house, and you find 7 grown-up people fighting over, it's terrible. Family is powerful. Thank you for that statement. Family is powerful. And then we need to think in terms of family. Don't isolate yourself from your family. Because at the time you are going, that's all you have, really. Okay? That's all you have. So Stella Artois has been in business for almost 700 years, for 658 years precisely. And then this company is making as much as almost 50 billion as of this year. $50 billion. And they're in over 80 countries. Can you imagine starting a company which will still be there 600 years after you are dead? And not only there 600 years, but it's making $42 billion. Can you imagine? Can you imagine just how amazing that is? And then how we need to start thinking. So the Twinings of London is another one. Twinings. How many of you have actually taken Twinings tea? How many of you know Twinings? Type in the comment section. You know Twinings of London, or you have tasted their tea. Have you tasted their tea? Type in the comment section. Now, what you are tasting is a 318-year-old company, a 318-year-old brand. How do you feel when you are drinking tea that was started by somebody, one family, because it's also family owned? You see what I'm telling you about family owned businesses and why families need to think in terms of that. Yes, Pauline says yes. Hey, Pauline, good to have you. Pauline is joining us from the US. Okay. So can you imagine just how fantastic it is? So don't just think about you and your husband, you and your wife. Think about not just the children, think about your grandchildren, think about the 10 generations from now. How can you break the backbone of generational poverty Business is one way to do it. Family business, I tell you, because you can finish working like I worked in Shell, in all those cool places. When you leave Shell, Shell is not going to say, okay, because you worked there, all your families in the next 10 generations, they'll be employing them. That's not the way it works. And then you will carry all the plaques, and that's your pension. They will not start paying your children pension because it doesn't happen that way. Whether it is Shell or Coca-Cola or any of these big places you're working or small places, and then even the place you're working right now, if you drop dead today, within 24 hours, type in the comment section 24 hours. I want this thing to sink. Type 24 hours. If you drop dead right where you work now in that company, within 24 hours, they will replace you. And they're not going to say, okay, let us start paying your children. Let's start paying your grandchildren because you worked in that place. But the family business does that for you. Are you feeling me? Are you getting value? Do you understand what I'm talking about? This is the wisdom I want to impart into our African thinking. Look at Twinings, 1706, and they are still in business today. Family owned, and they're in over 100 countries. So anytime I'm taking their tea, it tastes different because I just marvel at the history behind that. This year, Cadbury is 200 years. Cadbury was started exactly 200 years ago. And then they're in 50 countries. They make revenues now going up to 30 billion. 200 years is still working today. Are you feeling what I'm telling you? Are you feeling it? I really want you to feel it. I want you to generate conversations in your family tonight when you go. Now, Mercedes-Benz started 123 years ago, 1901. And then up to today, Mercedes-Benz is still a beloved brand. There are so many people who can kill, who vouch for Mercedes-Benz. They love it. But that was what somebody started in 1901. And then they have factories in more than 20 countries. And then they, in 2019, as of when I studied them, they sold 2.3 million cars. What makes a business last 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years? I don't know. Well, I thought about a local example. They are not really like a big conglomerate, but this gentleman who was just a chemist assistant or technician, he made this alabukun, and that was in 1914. So that's 110 years old. And then alabuku has been very, very, very popular, especially when I was growing up in the late 60s, in the 70s. Alabuku was so popular, and in fact, there's I was surprised to find alabuku in Ghana. I thought it was just a Nigerian thing, and it's also in Europe. And then friends have told me that they found it in China, and it's also in African stores in North America. Isn't that incredible? Okay, and Sunday asked in the comment section, why is family business not working in Africa? Part of it is just lack of awareness, and then we don't think about it. And I think also, personally, philosophically speaking, I think most Africans have lost their identity. We're neither here nor there. And then the Western system of thought has confused us. So we don't even know who we are. Because if you look at it, businesses were done in families when we were growing up in our village. Because I remember there was a man who sold cola nuts. Like, if you look at your village, I want every one of you to please confirm what I am saying. If you are old enough, like me, confirm it in the chat. In the village, there are families that for generations, if you want to buy cola nut, that is all they sold. So we have that family in my village. Their grandfather sold cola nut. If you wanted cola nut, you went to these people. When the man died, of course, the wife continued selling cola nut. The children sold kola nut. So the family, they know kola nut in and out. It's like it is given to them. That's their line. And they were doing very well. Then you might also discover that there are some families, their own has been palm oil. They were known for palm oil. Anytime anybody in the village needed palm oil, you went to this family. There were some other families, their own was yam. And then in my village, there were families, salt. Their mother produced salt because we have a salt lake in my village. Their grandmother produced salt. The mother produced salt. She is producing salt. So it actually exists in Africa. It's just that we have not scaled it. So please confirm in the chat if in the Gambia, in Sierra Leone, in Southern Africa, when you go to your village, do you find families like that? Families that have been in one line of business forever. In fact, also before technology came and took over everything, we also had families in my village. They were blacksmiths. So making farm implements whole, making knives and things like that. That's what they did. I grew up seeing them. So they had this contraption where they would put some coal, some charcoal, and then they melt iron, and then they beat it. So it was by family. But you see, yes, Malik said some head of cattle. Yes, cattle. Some do cattle. Yeah, it's by family. And then Stephen also said one of the problems now is that we solely depend on importation. That is true. We're no longer producing and trading between us as Africans like we did in the olden times. We import everything from China. So good thoughts. But please, we want to change it tonight. We want to change it tonight. And please type that in the comment. This must change from tonight. At least everyone who watches this, I want you to go and sleep over this. Think about family business. A problem your family will solve for the world, for generations to come. Imagine discipline in hospitality for 1,320 years. Solving. You can imagine, my goodness, the millions of people who have enjoyed the hospitality in this old. So the families are still serving. The family that started it 1,300 years ago, they are still serving the world more than 1,000 years. Isn't this profound? Isn't this profound? Isn't it? Please. Yeah, this must change tonight. Yes, this must change from tonight. This must change from tonight. This is profound. Now, the question I have for you, look at this. Look at all those companies that have lasted 1,000 years, 500 years, even 100 years. Now, type in the chat every time I ask the question. Do you think that these companies ever experienced tribal wars? Like now in many parts of Africa, there are tribal wars. Sierra Leone fought some very bitter ones. Nigeria fought and still fights some really bitter tribal wars. And so do you think that these companies that lasted 500 years experienced tribal wars? Type in the chat. Do you think they did? In 600 years, did they see tribal war? Did they see plagues and pandemic? A company that has lasted 600 years, 1,000 years, did they experience plagues? Type in the chat. A company that has lasted 500 years, do you think that there was a time that they saw pandemic? Do you think also that these companies experienced a period of slavery? Talk to me. Slavery. 1,000 years. Did they go through that difficult period of slavery? Aha. Now, this is another excuse that we give ourselves, like in Africa. Do you think that these companies that have lasted 200 years, 300 years, that they did not experience colonialism? And then the big one, do you think that the companies that lasted 150 years, 300 years, that they never saw world wars? Of course they did. Mercedes-Benz, just a couple of years after they started, they saw the First World War. And then after a couple of decades, they saw the Second World War. And Mercedes-Benz is still alive today. Did they see economic crisis? Did they experience the Great Depression like the one that we are complaining about in the world of 2024 today? Did they experience famine? Did they experience protests, political upheavals? Did they also experience terrorism? Like we talk about Boko Haram, we talk about all the things going on in the Sahel and all that. Did they experience it? Did they also experience terrible government, bad regime? Nigeria is complaining and suffering crazy regimes, crazy elections, crazy everything. Did they do that? Yes, they did. And they survived. Because if you have been there for 1,000 years, there's nothing here you have not seen. Within those 1,000 years, what we know today as the countries didn't exist. There was no Nigeria 200 years ago. There was no Ghana, no place called Ghana 150 years ago. There was no place called the Gambia 300 years ago. But then, these companies went through all this. And then if they can do it, type it in the chat. We can. Okay, so these are the countries that currently participate in our live business sessions. If your country is not here, please type it in the chat so that we can update it. So we want to keep record about where in the next 1,000 days that we are going to do this, we are going to see incredible results. Just type incredible results in the chat. All these things I'm telling you about, that's the vision. That's the vision. At the end of this 1,000 days, we would have trained and coached business leaders who can say this must change, who can say, I want to build a business that will be there 300 years, 500 years after I have gone. And then I'm going to be helping you to develop those skills. Remember how this thing started. I asked myself, if I had only 1,000 days more to live, and I had to download valuable lessons and impact the world, what would I teach? That's why we are doing this tonight. And let me know in the comment section if you are getting value, if you believe we are succeeding in this mission, okay? Because I want to help every one of us develop the skills and strategies to attain financial independence. I want to help every one of us to scale our businesses, and not just to scale our businesses, but to build businesses that will still be there 500 years or more after we have done. Does that sound exciting? Okay. And then I want to help every one of us to build peaceful families, all right? Loving families that will be there. You see, we're talking about starting family business, but many families cannot start it because they are scattered. There's divorce all over the place, separation, husband fighting, wife, children are scattered, no peace in the house, quarrels, all kinds of things. Terrible. So we are going to change that in the next 1,000 days. Okay, are you getting value here? Okay, good. So for today's agenda, the first part of this topic, because we are not going to complete it tonight, we will continue from where we stopped today on Monday. So for today, we are going to focus on identifying the root causes of business stagnation. All right, so we'll just focus on that one tonight. Then from Monday, we will continue with developing a business recovery plan. So in other words, if your business is stagnating and is going down, you need to come up with a plan, a 90-day plan, which I'm going to share with you to recover your business and to set it on the path to scale again. And then you will also be able to know if the signs that your business is stagnating, and then you can arrest it before that happens. And again, even if you're working, you're currently an employee, this is very valuable for you because this is something, when you learn it tonight, you can go to work Monday morning and talk to the MD, talk to the managers. Let's see, I attended a live business coaching session by Awoke Obo, and these are the highlights that I would like us to. I think that if our business implements some of these insights I'm going to share with you, and to tell your manager, tell your organization, give them the insight, because it is to your advantage and to my benefit as well that your business, the company you work for, should survive and do well. Okay, so you tell them, okay, these are the ideas that I think we need to start implementing to reverse the stagnation in our business. Very, very good. Okay, so we're going to start with the very first part of it, why businesses stagnate, the root causes. Okay, Ajia Mahmood says, is it possible for two people that found a business together to last for centuries? It is possible. It is possible. But in a future session, we will talk about corporate governance. We will talk about corporate governance. And then, because corporate governance is still not very, many businesses in our part of the world are still not very clear on corporate governance. And so we're going to have some sessions in the future on corporate governance, how you can set up your business and structure it in such a way that it does not matter who works there, and that it doesn't even matter who the partners are, because the business will take a life of its own, independent of the lives of the partners, of the people who started it or the people who are running it. And then corporate governance is what makes that happen. And then that's one of my the services that I offer companies, because I do hold board retreats, and I have a couple of them coming in the last quarter of this year. And I also do board training and then board assessment, for big organizations, profit and non-profit. So we'll talk about that in a future live session. All right, so there are 7 reasons why businesses stagnate. Okay, pay close attention. And then if any of the reasons, as I mentioned them, it applies to you, please type in the chat, applies to me. Okay, if it applies to your business or applies to the company where you currently work, make sure you type in the chat, applies to me. Remember, I want you to connect your nervous system, your memory, to what we are sharing, to the insight here. So the first reason why businesses stagnate is that they run out of cash. Businesses stagnate when they run out of cash. This is the commonest reason. Okay, this is the commonest reason why businesses stagnate. Because the moment cash is like they say, cash is the blood of your business. And you know that the life of every animal is in its blood. When all the blood in your body drains, you will die immediately. And that's exactly the same thing with businesses. So when a business runs out of cash, it dies. And I think that's what happened to the sugar company in North Africa, in Eastern Africa, beg your pardon. Okay, so because now they have insufficient financial resources to sustain their operations, to sustain production of their goods, and then the distribution, and then paying salaries and things like that. So businesses stagnate there. I once worked with a client that at some point they weren't able to pay the employees. They first owed 1 month, then they owed 2 months, then they owed 3 months, and then at some point it was 8 months, and of course the company basically folded. All right, they don't have cash to invest in growth opportunities. All right, so because you need cash to do many things, to take on new segments, you need cash to do advertisements, so you need cash to pay your suppliers. So if this is happening to you or to the business you are working, please say apply to me in the comment. You can see that the company is running out of cash. Cash flow is becoming very difficult. To find the cash to do the day-to-day operations is becoming difficult. You go, the manager says there's no cash, we cannot do that, and so you are not growing. So this is one solid sign that your business is stagnating. You are running gradually out of cash, and then your account payables are becoming bigger than your account receivables, your business is facing the threat of stagnation. And then anytime that the cash totally runs out, sales are not coming in, you're not profitable, your margins are thinning, your bottom line is low, is failing, then the business is facing the risk of stagnation. Yeah, so yeah, I have a couple of people saying applies to me, and all that. Okay, excellent. Now, there's a second reason why businesses stagnate. Reason number 2 is when customers stop buying. Remember, in the first, second, or third, I forget, episode, the very first part of when we started this 1000 days, we talked about how being customer centric, because customers are the center of your business, because they are all connected, because it's the customers that give you the cash. So once there is a decline in demand for the product or services that you have, okay, when it's declining and people are no longer buying. So if you have an example, if this applies to you, type in the comment section and tell us what you sell that people are no longer buying as they used to buy. All right. When customers stop buying, like some restaurants in some parts of the country are struggling because food prices have gone up. And then the plate of food that you used to sell for 1,500 naira, there is no way you'll be profitable selling the same quality, the same food at 1,500. So now, when you were selling the food, your pounded yam menu, 1,500 naira, you were buying yam at 700 naira. Now you are buying that same quantity of yam at 8,000 naira. So for you to become profitable, you have to do 15,000 naira. And then when you put 15,000 naira there, nobody buys. That is a sign of stagnation, okay? And so customer foot traffic is becoming low. Before, you used to have, in one day, you used to have like 5,000 people visit your retail. But these days, you're struggling to get 100 or 200. That is a sign of stagnation. That is a sign of stagnation. And then we're going to talk about what to do to arrest that. Sign number 3, that your business is stagnating, is when the leadership lacks vision and direction. And then when the leadership lacks vision and they have unclear goals, the very next thing is they'll be making poor decisions. I kid you not, a couple of years ago, I went into the office of a managing director of an investment firm, which I was investing with in those days. So he was the managing director, but he wasn't the owner of the company. So I knew the owner of the company, very, very good friend and things like that, and I didn't tell him. I walked into this man's office in Marina one day and I saw a girl sitting on his laps. They had forgotten to close the door. It was shocking. I don't know whether that girl was an employee or somebody, just sitting on his laps. Married guy, managing director. So business starts stagnating when you have that kind of leadership, because that's not leadership. That's not what leadership is. That is ineffective leadership. The leaders must have character, the kind of character to move a vision, to move a company forward. There have been cases where businesses just folded because they recruited the wrong CEO. So that is very big. And as I said, if that applies to your company, type it there. Okay? Leadership that is weak, they don't have vision, they are not making good decisions. That is stagnation. Number 4, the fourth reason why businesses stagnate is operational inefficiencies that are not being addressed. So you have some people who are like in the water business, what Nigerians call pure water. Let me know, what do you guys call it in the Gambia, Malik? There's this pure water, basically water they have in sachet. And so they have factories, and then they have all these trucks that carry these factories. And then Many times, those trucks are not good. They are not well maintained. They break down on the road several times. They are very, very old. They are not ineffective. One of them had an accident with our neighbor the other day because either the brakes failed or something like that. So there are all kinds of operational inefficiencies that are not addressed. You're not addressing the logistic inefficiencies. You are not addressing the fact that your distribution chain is declining and the customer service is very, very poor, at the user interface. All those operational inefficiencies in your business, in the value chain, they are showing that your business is stagnating. People are supposed to come to work at 8 a.m. in the morning, but people strolling, some strolling at 9, some strolling casually at 11. The place is dying. That business is dying. Okay? So there are wasteful processes. You are supposed to produce. You can produce, typically, when your business was doing very well, you were producing 100 booklets. Maybe you're publishing a journal or something. You could do 100 booklets from a certain quantity of paper. Now, because of your operational inefficiency, your machines are old and breaking down. They don't work when they're supposed to work. Your machine parts, you can't replace them in 2 weeks and things like that. Not only are you producing 65, but you delay customer jobs, and your customer service is very, very poor. Electricity is erratic. That business is going down if you're not giving attention to your operational inefficiencies. Fifth reason why businesses stagnate: they fail to innovate. Okay? Lack of new ideas that will actually excite customers, and then the customer demographics that are changing. Okay? And then, so businesses stagnate when they fail to innovate, and they literally die. You see, the famous one we use in business schools is Kodak. Everybody has heard about Kodak. Kodak's case study, if you've ever gone to a business school. So they teach it how these people fail to adopt new innovation in digital photography. And then they stuck to that their, I forget, is it 16 millimeter or something millimeter film, that you shoot with that camera. You take your film to the lab and then they develop for you. And then they failed to adopt the digital technology because they felt they were the biggest in the industry at the time, and they felt that life would always be that good. It turned out that it wasn't. 2 years ago, during a visit to Colorado in the United States, my host drove me to the town where Kodak used to sit. He said, because he had been in the US, my host had been in the US from 1981. So he used to see Kodak, massive facility in that part. When we went there, we drove, for kilometers in that massive industrial whatever, and there was no Kodak. There was nothing standing there. So that was not just stagnation, that was obliteration. Why? Because they failed to innovate. And it's happening every day in different industries. Those that are not innovating are on their way to dying. Are you getting value? Type in the chat, value. If this is helping you and helping your company, type value in the comment section. Type value. I want to see it. I want to make sure that everybody's listening. Okay, so the number 6 reason why businesses stagnate is that employees are demotivated. So if in your company right now there's massive low morale, lack of engagement in your organization, poor performance culture, people do the work anyhow, and then maybe you hear statements like you hear in some Nigerian companies and they say, "Na my papa get am, after all it's not my father's work," and then people are not taking responsibility. People are basically just going there for the sake of going and for the sake of the monthly salary. And then again, there's high turnover. People are leaving. People come to that company and they stay only 3 months and they leave. That business is stagnating. that business is stagnating. So I worked for a hotel chain once. So every time I went to their headquarters to meet with their leadership team, I met new people. Every time, which was like every 2 or 3 months, I was coaching them. Every 2 or 3 months I went there, we had new different people. So I called the CEO one day and said, this is not sustainable. You can't be changing. People can't be going and coming. People will just come 1 month and they resign 2 months. So there must be something that's making people live that way. And then what it has done to you is that you become a perpetual startup. Because if a whole organization, almost like every 3 months, you have totally different people, you cannot scale it. That business will stagnate. So you need employee culture. You need like a totally good, very, very good HR expert who can come and put policies there, implement staff retention strategies and things like that, because you need the employees. Okay, great. And then the number 7, why businesses stagnate: when you ignore the changes in the market. Okay, you ignore the changes in the market and you're not keeping in touch with customer preferences, and then you're not responding to economic shifts or technological disruptions, like the one that is going on right now is AI. It's still in its infancy, and I think in many respects people overhype it, and then AI is not going to totally replace human beings now, but there are many aspects of what you do in your business that you can actually apply AI. And I'm thinking about examples in terms of how customer preferences, change radically. And the fashion industry is one place, where tastes change over time. So there are, if you insist on doing 1970s or 1980s fashion, you might not see adoption with the Gen Z niche, for instance, or even with a lot of people. But sometimes you run into a stroke of luck, and then fashion that people had in the 1950s comes back to life and all that. But you have to follow customer preferences, because your business will stagnate when customers want to go east, but you're trying to push them to go west. All right, so these are the 7 businesses why businesses stagnate, and this is where we are going to pack it tonight. We are just exactly on the dot of the hour, and then on Monday we will continue with the very next section, and then we are going to talk about how do you develop a recovery plan for your business. So if your business is sliding and stagnating, how do you build a 90-day recovery plan? Okay, so this is where we are going to end tonight, and I want to thank all of you who have been there. Share this replay, share this video widely, share it very widely with the community. Let Africans know what we are trying to build. When we do it together, it's stronger, when we do it together and when we grow in this knowledge together. And I will see you exactly the same time tomorrow. Whatever happens, keep showing up, because you have no idea what's coming your way next. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.